Good morning. I wanted to take a different bike today because I feel like things are getting kind of stale by riding the same thing every day and just having like a morning commute. But now with these tires on, not that they're that much bigger than the Pacellas, it's just too fun. I guess it'll just have to be later that I start like using a different bike or trying to switch it up, because it's not going to be today. Now, depending on what your definition of be careful with your collarbone is, this might not fall into it, but I want to do it anyway. Forgetting that I need to do it twice. The bigger your tires are, the more fun you're going to have on your commute. Now, I want to let you know that I'm self-aware enough to know that taking video of yourself going down a not really steep hill and skidding around a frozen dirt corner is not that cool and loses all of its radness purely by having to go pick up the camera. That's what I say. But I'm having more fun than everybody else. Four or five years ago, when I was first getting into road riding, I went and visited my parents in my hometown and brought my road bike with me. Now, my dad was always a pretty avid bike rider growing up, and when he had us, he kind of drifted away from it a little bit. But when he saw that I was getting interested in it, it kind of rekindled his interest into riding as well. Now, the thing about 5 years ago is I was pretty heavily influenced on whatever was super popular in the world of like road riding at the time. And at the time, no one was really convinced that big tires were kind of the way to go. 23 was kind of the norm, and I was convinced by people that the smaller the tire and the harder it is, the absolute faster you will go. I followed it pretty religiously. Actually, because I didn't really have anybody to show me the ropes at all, I basically took the rules from the Veluminati blog as seriously as unbelievably possible. I guess from time to time I probably still kind of do. Whatever. But because my influence was so strong in what other people were doing, I didn't really take any other ideas seriously, and I thought they were all stupid. Once again, I'm still guilty of that. Nothing I really talk about here is particularly original, but... So my dad sees that I'm getting into road riding, and he's like, hey, that looks pretty fun. I think that I'd like to do that. But he has this idea. He says, you know, those road bikes, they don't look super comfortable, but I would like to get into this road riding thing. I think probably what I would like to do is have one of those like fancy drop bar road bikes, but imagine one of those with like a really big fat tire. Wouldn't that be comfortable? And how cool would that look? It'd just be like a monster truck road bike. And I look at him as this 21-year-old cool guy who knows everything about road riding and say, Dad, that's the stupidest thing I've ever heard. And begin to recite to him in a very convincing way that if you want to be a road rider, you've got to ride the absolute smallest tire that you can possibly get on that wheel. And it needs to be pumped up to the most rock hard PSI that you could possibly get in there. That is how you become a fast road rider. Comfort is nothing. It's all about really rock hard tires and pushing the hardest gear that you could possibly push. Your legs screaming. It really isn't about enjoyment. It's about persevering through really difficult and tough rides and just riding faster than everybody else and leaving your friends in the dust. I think I said something stupid along the lines of like, you know, if you need the bike to be more comfortable, then this isn't the sport for you. Why don't you go mountain biking? Why don't you get a mountain bike or a hybrid? If you want to start road riding, you ride small tires and you ride hard and you go out and you train. That's what road riding is. It's hard. Only the toughest and the hardest riders can road ride. And the funny thing is it sort of worked. My dad went out and he bought a cross bike. He's like, yeah, I need a bike that I can do everything with. But Eric's right. For the road, I'll put a nice small road tire on there. And I'll be able to ride nice and fast. And, hopefully I'll be able to keep up with everybody and just deal with the harsher ride of a smaller tire. Because that's what you do when you road ride. And from there, we never really talked about it again. My dad just kept riding the same tire size he had for the road and would switch the wheel sets over to a 33 for cyclocross racing. Now, it wasn't long after that people started to realize that, a bigger, more comfortable, and lower pressure tire actually ends up being faster. And, my dad doesn't spend a whole lot of time on the internet reading these things, but I do. It was also in these few formative years that I started being introduced to a lot more cyclocross racing and riding a drop bar bike off-road. So naturally I started being a little more exposed to this whole big tire thing. And fast forward about a year and a half, and I go home again to visit with a road bike that has 38 millimeter slicks on it. So I get to my parents' house and I pull my bike off the bike rack and I'm like, Dad, you need to check this out. I've got this bike here that has just massive tires on it that I've been using for everything. It's great. I can road ride on it. I can take it off-road. It has all sorts of traction on dirt. They're not even really that slow on the road. And it's great. So there's my dad looking at a bike that I built that was his idea. And of course my dad looks at it and he says, isn't that the idea I had last year? I said I wanted to have a road bike with really big tires on it that would be really comfortable, that I could ride everywhere. And that was the moment that I realized that my dad's able to predict future cycling innovations. And I think that's the moment that my dad realized not to take his bicycle building advice from someone who looks at cycling so vainly like I do. Anyway, that's just a funny story about how I should probably consider taking more advice from my dad than he should be taking from me. And honestly, I could probably say that about a lot more than just what's going on in the world of cycling. I still miss the tan walls, but this does look cool.